March 15th, 2025. The Syrian dawn broke over the green slopes of the coastal mountains, fragile light spilling over olive groves and bomb craters alike. Along winding roads, villagers rose to the sound of birds, not knowing their quiet morning would shatter in moments. Far above, F-35 Adir stealth fighters waited in silence at their base, radar shadows across enemy lines. Their mission: find and destroy Iran's missile factories hidden deep in Syrian soil. At 4:45 a.m., the sky cracked. Missiles launched quietly from below the horizon. The whisper of jet engines, nearly silent. A swarm of F-35s peeled off into formation, invisible even to high-range radars, slipping through layers of Syrian air defenses. Moments later, the first bombs dropped. Fierce flashes lit up the ground as missile depots exploded. Underground workshops ripped apart, and missile production lines turned to rubble. One of the primary targets was the facility at Masyaf, an underground missile manufacturing plant under construction, which Israeli intelligence believed could soon supply dozens of precision-guided missiles to Hezbollah and Iranian proxy forces. Engineers had observed its rapid growth, tunnels expanding, stockpiles increasing, missile body molds seen via satellite images. Every moment the plant remained active was a growing threat. The F-35s struck with unerring precision. Warheads drilled through reinforced concrete, detonating in hidden chambers. Buildings exploded from within. Anti-aircraft batteries surrounding the site responded. Syrian SAMs fired dozens of surface-to-air missiles into the sky, lighting up the dawn like fireworks. But the F-35s were gone, their stealth earned by disappearing before the defenses could lock on. Down below, as dust and smoke clouded the air, firefighters and rescue teams scrambled. Explosions had collapsed several tunnels. Satellite images later showed roofed concrete sections crushed, mushroom clouds rising where workshops and missile mold fabrication labs once stood. According to monitors, dozens were killed, including Iranian-backed militia fighters, some Syrian soldiers, and several engineers. Civilian casualties were reported as well in nearby villages where shrapnel rained through windows and fences. Back in Israel, politicians called the strike one of the most decisive yet. Prime Minister's office released satellite images showing perfectly cut craters, missile barns destroyed, exit shafts blocked. Military analysts praised the use of the F-35s as a turning point. These aircraft didn't just drop bombs, they dropped ignorance, one analyst said. They removed threats before they were ready. But also warned, this kind of precision comes at great risk. Tehran, watching via its intelligence channels, was enraged. IRGC statements condemned the act of aggression, calling it the latest in a series of Israeli attempts to stifle Iran's missile capabilities. Military spokesmen promised retaliation. The war room lit up. Plans to re-establish missile production, or move it deeper underground, were immediately ordered. Neighboring capitals were jolted. Damascus condemned the strike as an act of war. Moscow and Tehran exchanged sharp warnings. Some U.S. officials said they had been alerted ahead of time. Others said they were caught off guard by the speed and stealth of the operation. Satellite images were quickly analyzed by Western intelligence. Yes, the facility was destroyed. Yes, the F-35s flew in largely unchallenged. The question became, what next? Civilians in Syria counted the cost. Farms were burned, power lines severed, water pipelines damaged. Villagers dug through rubble in the morning light, pulling debris with hands, trying to find bodies or personal items. Children stood staring at ruined workshops, their futures now uncertain. The hit was surgical, but scars run deep. The aftermath wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Hezbollah showed videos of tunnels emptied, missile frames abandoned. Propaganda spoke of heroism in resisting. Israel's message was firm: no missile site too hidden, no threat too big if intelligence is sharp and aircraft stealthier. By 7 a.m., smoke still rose from the shattered hills of western Syria. Satellite images captured the aftermath: black craters where reinforced bunkers had stood, twisted steel frames of missile molds lying half-buried in ash. The Israeli Air Force had left nothing standing. For commanders in Tel Aviv, the mission was marked as accomplished. But on the other side of the battlefield, the fallout had just begun. In Tehran, senior IRGC officials gathered in an underground command center. They pored over grainy images and intercepted radio chatter. Hours earlier, one of Iran's most promising missile production facilities had been flattened. Engineers were dead, stockpiles erased, plans disrupted. The commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force slammed his fist against the table. "They think they can bomb us into silence?" he barked. "We will answer, faster than they expect." Within hours, Hezbollah in Lebanon began mobilizing. Convoys of fighters and equipment moved south toward hidden storage sites. Rocket units were put on standby. Lebanese villages near the border buzzed with unusual traffic. Israeli surveillance drones caught glimpses of truckloads covered in tarps. Signals intelligence detected encrypted communications. It was clear: retaliation was coming. The only question was when. In Damascus, Syrian officials went on state TV. They showed burned civilian houses, angry villagers, crying children. This was not just a strike on military sites, a spokesman declared. This was a massacre of innocent people. The Syrian government demanded international condemnation, calling on Russia and China to intervene. Moscow quickly issued a statement denouncing the attack, though it stopped short of promising direct action. Meanwhile, Israel doubled down. At a press conference, the IDF chief of staff stood before cameras, a giant satellite image projected behind him. Red circles marked the destroyed bunkers. These were not farms. These were not schools. These were Iranian missile sites built to threaten our cities, to threaten Tel Aviv, to threaten Haifa, and to supply Hezbollah with weapons aimed at every Israeli child. His voice hardened. "We will act wherever and whenever we must, even if that means going deep into Syria." International reaction was divided. Washington offered muted support, saying Israel had a right to defend itself against Iran's entrenchment in Syria. European leaders expressed concern about escalation. Arab governments issued cautious statements, condemning violence while avoiding direct criticism of Israel. For ordinary people watching on TV, it felt like the Middle East had been set on a knife's edge again. The military fallout was immediate. Analysts said the loss of the Masyaf facility was a crippling setback for Iran's missile program in Syria. The underground workshops had been designed to mass-produce precision missiles capable of striking deep into Israel. Now, those plans were in ruins. But intelligence officers also warned Iran would not stop. They would adapt, relocate, hide deeper, build tougher. For every bunker destroyed, one Western analyst said, another blueprint is drawn in Tehran. The human fallout was equally heavy. Families in Syria mourned loved ones buried under rubble. Farmers complained their orchards were scorched. Aid groups rushed to deliver food and medicine to affected villages. On the streets of Damascus, graffiti appeared overnight. "We will avenge Masyaf." Israel remained on high alert. Air defense batteries were moved closer to northern cities. Iron Dome crews were stationed around Haifa and Galilee. Reservists were called up for border duty. In the skies, reconnaissance drones circled continuously, scanning for the first signs of rocket fire. The Home Front Command warned civilians to prepare shelters. "The next hours could change everything," one news anchor said grimly. At midnight, Hezbollah fired its first salvo. A dozen rockets arced out of southern Lebanon, aimed at Israeli border towns. Most were intercepted by Iron Dome, exploding harmlessly in the air. But one rocket slammed into an open field near Kiryat Shmona, sending flames into the night. Sirens wailed across northern Israel. Civilians ran to shelters. The retaliation had begun. Israel's response was immediate. Artillery units unleashed dozens of shells at Hezbollah launch sites. Fighter jets roared north, striking suspected rocket depots and command posts. In the span of hours, the border lit up with fire. Farmers on both sides of the line abandoned fields. Entire towns went dark under rolling blackouts. For a moment, it felt like 2006 all over again. Another war in Lebanon. And yet, behind the flames and rubble, the strategic message was clear. Israel had shown it could reach deep into Syria and destroy Iran's missile infrastructure, even when buried underground. Iran had shown it could rally its proxies to answer quickly. The cycle of strike and counterstrike was alive, spinning faster than ever. By dawn, smoke still clung to the mountains of Syria and Lebanon. Israeli jets returned home. Hezbollah fighters melted back into villages. Civilians counted damage and prayed for calm. Diplomats rushed to phones, urging restraint, but everyone knew the truth. This was not the end. This was just the next chapter in a conflict stretching across borders, across years, across generations. Israel's F-35s had annihilated Iranian missile sites in Syria. The aftermath wasn't just explosions and craters. It was fear, fury, and the chilling realization that the war of shadows in the Middle East was no longer hidden. It was burning in plain sight.